Hey guys, did you miss me? As per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So it's been a while, been a busy summer. Let's take a look at some charts. I have a bunch of articles on Brave New Coin. If you know who I am, you probably know that already, and this is pointless, but if you don't, check those out. They're long, they're good in my opinion and others. Agree or disagree, it's something to see. I'll leave the link for that in the description below. Let's talk about some fundamentals. I'll talk about BTC and ETH. The big thing is who's buying, when, why, who are the market participants, what is their mindset? Are they in it for the technology? Are they just here to chase speculation? Seeing things like this, I was joking, like Bernie Sanders style investing, where it's $33 at a time from 2 million people. That's going to move the needle. But those people aren't going to be the people who are holding for years, most likely. Sure, some of them might be, but I think on balance, most of those people are your family members. If you're watching this video, you're probably not somebody who does this, but many of my family members are, panicking at the bottom, FOMOing at the top. That's just human nature. You can't blame people for that. So when I see this, I'm bullish long term. It doesn't really do much for me in the interim. This does say was. I'm kind of curious how that's dropped off throughout August. I do think Coinbase is ramping up PR for some sort of IPO event, whether it be a security token or something. I don't know. I don't know what it's even going to look like, but I'm just seeing a lot more like Coinbase stuff. And I think them adding a bunch of coins just shows people like we're making strides in the right direction to become a bigger exchange, custody, blah, 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 blah. The other thing I'm not really going to talk about, but Bitmain obviously is a giant headline for everyone to read, even outside of crypto, when you're talking about billions of dollars. Who really knows what's going on there as far as when they'll actually IPO, if they actually IPO? Most people have said that they would benefit from a strong crypto market during the IPO, pre-IPO. Rising tide raises all boats. The fact that they bought so much Bitcoin Cash, super interesting strategy that I wish them luck on. Here's another chart showing just penetration of internet percentage versus Coinbase accounts, basically, and it's just showing like we're at the bottom, we're early. Sure, not everyone in the United States is going to have a Coinbase account, but it's just saying like by the numbers, estimation, fuzzy math, it's still hardly anybody. So I'm bullish on that. Let's talk about what's happened in the past few days. There was a SEC delay that was probably expected, but the market does what the market does, and I think the market in general is just too sensitive on ETF news altogether. So the fact that we dump so hard on nothing news means that we should pump like moon bounce at your cousin's birthday party when we actually get an ETF, which probably won't be 6 to 12 months. I don't know. I'm not even more speculating on, but it'll happen eventually. I'm just not concerned on when it happens. I'm really bad at playing news in general. So in this hit, I wasn't like crazy, like, I'm going to short this because everyone else is going to short this. I didn't even think about that. I was just like, okay, whatever, like, who cares? Like, I was too rational that it didn't matter. But that's not that's not how the market was acting at the time. Something else that happened shortly thereafter was 30 million in crypto loans for shorting, essentially, on Genesis. So look at that in the charts. Those two things were hand in hand, I think. So where are we, grand big picture, Bitcoin? You see me posting this every day. Again, none of these chart ideas are mine. None of them are OC. I just bring spotlights to things I think are good and that I'm actually using and trade upon. That's the purpose of Twitter, to follow the conversation, okay? It doesn't matter who says the chart first. All I care about is if I trade it correctly. So anyway, this is Wyckoff. Love it or hate it, whatever. The point of this is it gives you a potential roadmap for market movements that have occurred repeatedly throughout time, over and over again. Okay, well studied, well understood, generally how things look. You get these movements, and essentially where it's showing now is if we don't make catastrophic lows, we are headed for 10, 11K based on the previous resistance. Sometime within this year, I'd suspect. Q4 has generally been really good for Bitcoin. So it's nice that it lines up with that. Who knows? I have this random, I didn't draw this yellow part right, but I have this random ghost line. This other thing a lot of people have been watching is the falling wedge. This solid red, solid green. So this is support, this is resistance, and it's just sort of bouncing between. And for any chart pattern, anything that's falling is always bullish. It's always a bullish reversal sign. Anything that's rising is always a bearish reversal sign. So we're getting a falling wedge, that's a bullish reversal sign. Any triangle likes to break out when it's about 2/3 full, which is around September 17th. So it's plausible that we go sort of sideways, bounce around in these support resist lines for a little bit, and then potentially move around September 17th, just based on measuring this as 300 days. You can't see the end of this, but I measured it as about 300 days. So somewhere between September and beginning of October, I can see something happening based on that one falling wedge thing that we're sort of stuck in. Another thing to comment on is just this zone around 6,800. You can't see it on the bar chart as well, the candlestick chart. You can see it easily on the line chart, that it was support here and then it was resistance until it wasn't. This was the inverted head and shoulders. So I think we'll chill at 6,800 for a little while. If you were to look at the volume profile, there was probably a lot of volume in that area because people are buying and selling at resist support zones or at the inverted head and shoulders breakout. One last thing about this chart, I don't look at line charts enough, which is why I've been looking at it every day, because what I noticed very clearly here was an Adam Eve that I missed on the candlesticks that would have really been profitable. Certainly you can't expect like a 25% drop or whatever on that, but it helps highlight certain things a little easier if you're not like paying attention to all the time frames. It just paints it really nicely there. So Bitcoin earlier yesterday, the 13th, this was 2 days ago, two things I've noticed: that we keep printing reversal patterns that fail. Now you can say I'm bad at my job or whatever, like I don't care. But to me, these are all reversal patterns that are trying to form but just fail. So here we have a inverted head and shoulders. It failed. Irrespective of this crazy, wacky, thin order book, giant buy, sell, it looked pretty real. This chart wasn't telling you to go long right then. It was telling you to wait for breaking the resistance to go long, which is why you never enter these chart patterns early. So if you see me post something like this, none of this is investment advice anyway, just for your own edification, based on how you should trade these, at least how I trade these. You're waiting for confirmation of volume and breaking horizontal resistance. So what actually happened was it just basically sold off right after then. Right here is where it was. So here's been the past couple days. Again, we had this W bottom that looked really good, and it failed. Almost exactly, like, maybe to like the hour when this ETF delay news came out. And I didn't know this at the time, but Genesis originated the shorts on Tuesday, which is that day as well. My guess is they originated the shorts after the announcement, just based on, you know, people playing news or fundamentals. So okay, we get the W and then we just free fall. We don't even stop at 6,800, which is where I thought we were gonna stop, and then we just ball out here for a while. Range, volume, volume, volume. This is what you want to see. You want to see a ton of volume. What you don't want to see is this thin death trickle, slow bleed stuff, because that'll just go on and on and on and on and on forever. When you finally see this, you're seeing accumulation, distribution, however you want to think about it. Lots of people are buying, lots of people are selling. Generally, buyers and sellers are coming to an equilibrium, especially if things are ranging. You can call this a descending, broadening wedge. Sure, I don't have too much experience with that, but if it is that indeed, then we're going back to like 7,400. I don't know. I'm guessing it's going to chill where this W is, reconsolidate, and then head north should it do so. You can see we broke the VPVR. So what the volume profile is showing is just where people have bought and sold. Generally, when you look at volume, you see it per day. Like, this is how much bought and sold per day. But when you see it on the side like this is showing you this price range is where lots of people bought and sold based on the space that I'm looking at on the chart. So this will look different if you move the chart left and right. But if you take out enough data, you can get a pretty clear picture of what's going on for people buying and selling. There were a lot of buying and selling going on around here. We've broken that point now, so the expectation in my mind is we're headed to 7,000, which is the next sort of resistance zone or order block if you're the ICT crowd. I don't know how quickly we're going to end up at 8K if we do, but 7K is definitely the next zone. That's pretty obvious. You don't really need the VPVR to tell you that. I think it really helps when there's a lot of consolidation and madness going on, because, you know, we chilled here for a little while. We're probably going to chill here on the way up. And back to this capitulation thing, like, this is what I want to see. I want to see massive volume on the 1 minute. 1 minute. Stops getting hit. Stops getting broken. Capitulation. Suicide hotline getting thrown out there in the Twitterverse and on Bitcoin subreddits. This is what you want to see. That's when there's blood in the streets, okay? Literally blood in the streets. What's not even on here is another candle, the next one, that had actually more volume. It went lower. But that's what you want to see. People throwing up their hands, giving up hope. If you're catching knives, this is what you want to see. This is not knife catching worthy. You want to see a clear, insane volume pickup. It doesn't make any rational sense. Like, who's going to sell the bottom? I don't know. I mean, maybe we go to 300 after we break 6K, but I doubt it. So it's just something to think about. The other thing a lot of people are watching is shorts. So this is long short data for Bitfinex, divided by 100 for each of them. But basically it's showing shorts have never, maybe they have, but not recently, been this high since the last time they were about this high, and we had a strong reversal. So all those shorts are in for a world of hurt, plus those Genesis shorts are now underwater or close to break even, maybe. Unbalanced, they're probably break even if they shorted on Tuesday. So it's another thing to pay attention to. Who's shorting, why, how much, where, what's going on. You know, I always say if longs get added at the top, those are the FOMOers who are going to get wrecked. Not just I say that, but most people say that. People are piling on short at the bottom. You have to think, you have to wonder, are we really going to go lower? The other part of that rationale is we need the fuel to push it further down. And if everybody is adding short at a level that's just ranging and not going anywhere, the question is who's going to be the next person to short? Like, there just has to be more and more money. Diminishing returns is probably the wrong phrase for that, but it's something to consider. All right, so cloud, last thing for Bitcoin, big picture. What I am concerned about is the bearish TK cross. The past two have been below the cloud, so the past two have been the most bearish signal you can get in the cloud system. Yes, we can get perfect Kijun bounces twice that, you know, TA doesn't work, right? It's just voodoo, but we get this, okay, fine. We get this preceding down moves twice. This one isn't as bearish. It's in the cloud. It says that price is ranging for a long time, which it was. We had this inverted head and shoulders form throughout June, July. So the next target based on daily cloud would be the Kijun at 7150-ish. The other reason I was more bullish, continually get more bullish as we traverse inside the cloud. First we had the Kijun bounces, the bearish Kijun bounces. There's more bearish Kijun bounces here. Then we get the first edge-to-edge trade, potentially. You know, we break into cloud resistance. If it fails, that's fine. And then we get Tenkin bounces, which are super bearish. And then we get another bearish, bullish entry into the cloud. Doesn't end up materializing into anything above the cloud, but you can see we're burning off the resistance more and more and more. We're going sideways more and more and more. We're consolidating for a bigger move, in my opinion, more and more and more. Whether it be up or down, I think it's bullish, but, you know, you call me biased, whatever. Then last thing, this is Bitcoin Days Destroyed. I wish we had this for Ethereum. I'm sure somebody somewhere has it. If you know of one, let me know. But what this shows is whether or not people who are holding for a long, long time are moving coins at all. In general, if you're holding coins for 5 years and you move coins, you don't move coins to buy more coins. You move coins that you've held for 5 years to sell coins. And again, arguably, because all these days were destroyed in November, July, December, whatever, that it's going to take a long time for these days to get accumulated again. So if I hold a Bitcoin, one Bitcoin for 10 days and then move it, that's 10 days destroyed. So you can see that this massive jump in days destroyed shows that a lot of holders were moving coins around, likely selling, because you don't move coins to move coins. If you're holding for that long, you just don't, in my opinion. All right, so that was Bitcoin and Ethereum. Again, market participants. I was talking about ICO stuff. Like, who's holding large amounts of Ethereum right now? People who are in the Ethereum ICO, the Ethereum Foundation, Vitalik. Not too many people in general, but it's pretty easy to figure out who they are. Just process of elimination. The other thing was these ICOs. They're holding a ton of ETH. I'd say anything above 100,000 probably would move the needle pretty easily. You can see most of these not holding very much anymore. This is just a random sampling. But there's all these ICOs that are still holding their ETH, and you can see that because they're all in these addresses, which were the ICO addresses. So some of them have moved, whatever. But the point is, there's still a lot of people holding ETH as far as ICOs are concerned. The other thing you can watch is the wallet addresses of the exchanges. I haven't really verified this, but I think it's legit. They're showing, similar to how we were looking at the Mt. Gox holder move coins around into Bitfinex. You don't move coins to Bitfinex to buy more coins. You move coins to sell on Bitfinex. It would have been smart of them to use them in the loan market all this time. I think that would be a big no-no from the custodial perspective, but it would have been super interesting. Anyway, so what they're saying here is that these are when all these transfers happened to Binance, and we're seeing just death shortly thereafter. So it's no surprise that you move coins to an exchange and price drops dramatically. To counter that, we did have some coins moved to BitMEX, allegedly 18K yesterday at the bottom. Again, I'm thinking, like, one, you can't actually short with all that anyway. You just use it as collateral on Cross or something. And two, it might be a vanity address, and you're better off sending it to Bitfinex, whatever. The other thing about the Ethereum, so here's somebody moving coins around from the Genesis block. Whether or not this was an exchange, I don't know, I don't care. But back to my hypothesis that you don't move coins around to move coins around. You move coins around to sell coins that you've been holding for a long time. This was BitMEX. We know it's BitMEX, allegedly, because of the first four letters of all the BitMEX addresses are BMEX. Alright, so ETH chart. Big picture, was looking at this cup and handle for a little bit. Also looking at this support resist zone from the ascending triangle. Anytime a pattern takes months to form, it's going to leave a lasting impression on the chart as far as support resistance zones. We saw that here, we saw that twice here. We actually didn't really see it here, which was kind of surprising, but also not surprising considering there are people just dumping, they're literally taking their bulldozer, they're taking their storage truck and just dumping it into Binance because they're panicking, which is good. That's what you want to see. The other thing about this chart pattern that you may think is garbage is that we were having a descending volume profile for months, which almost always points to a chart pattern. Like, you can say, Josh, there wasn't a descending thing here, but we still got a thing. Hey, that's just the way. Nothing's perfect. That's my narrative, okay? The other thing about this dump was the volume profile. Again, this is where most people bought and sold based on this time, this past year plus. Most people bought and sold. Hey, surprise, we're reversed. So that's why you want to be paying attention to these sort of things. If you want to go dumpster diving, blood buying, knife catching, okay? Because you want to look for where's just the psychological support? Where was a lot of people buying and selling? They were basically buying and selling below 300. So it also hit the 1.272 on the thing, the chart pattern. I really didn't think it would hit 140. It still might. The next thing to prepare for it would be like a V bottom, or maybe an inverted head and shoulders, or maybe ABCD where it makes another lower low and matches this wick. You sort of have to watch it. It's hard to predict, but knowing the decision tree, like of what to look for, you can move your chess pieces around accordingly. One of the reasons I was able to get in at 260 was because of this 3 drives. So all you do for this is you see 2 drives and you say, all right, we're dumping again. We're not making an inverted head and shoulders. We're not making an Adam Eve. We're just dumping. Okay, so you make a line from here to here. Control C, move it over, Control C, move it over, and you get this 250, 260 zone. And sometimes you bounce, sometimes you don't, but if I'm catching knives, I want at least some sort of evidence in the TA that there's a potential for a bottom. You're also seeing lower lows on less volume. You're seeing V questionable, U questionable. So there were other things there, but I was most convinced based on the 3 drives. And then lastly, big idea for Ethereum would be it's super far away from the 200. It's super far away from the Kijun. It's due for a bounce. You can see, as opposed to Bitcoin, it did not spend time in the cloud a second time. It consolidated and then just died at the Tenkin. So it's due for both a 200 retest and a Kijun retest. So that's why I think it's going to mean revert to somewhere around 400 in the near term. That would also match the previous support resistance, this big thing. I think it's going to chill here, might get bounced down from there. So that's something to look for, like 400 I think is a good psychological zone. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, hit me up on Twitter, and happy trading.